The moment her trembling voice carried those words, everything inside me stopped, like the world had slammed its brakes and left me standing in the middle of an empty road with nothing but my heartbeat echoing in my ears. We were standing behind the old community library, the sun blazing high in the afternoon sky, its golden rays spreading across the quiet street. Mariya's hands were pressed against her stomach, her eyes shimmering with fear, hope, and 1,000 unspoken questions. My breath caught somewhere between disbelief and a sharp, piercing ache in my chest. She said the baby in her belly was mine. Mine. I wasn't ready, I wasn't stable, I wasn't even someone I believed in, yet there she stood trusting me with a life neither of us had planned. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that change hearts, please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Chronicles. It really helps us reach more people who need a little light. The sun felt harsher that day, as if it saw everything we couldn't admit. She stood with her long hazel hair lifted by the summer breeze, her white cotton dress lightly brushing her knees. Her face looked delicate, too delicate for the weight she was carrying. Mariya had always been gentle, quiet, and deeply observant, but that afternoon, there was a flicker of steel in her eyes. She wasn't asking, she wasn't accusing, she was simply stating the truth she knew she couldn't face alone. I, Rayan, was 24, working long shifts at a mechanical workshop, trying to keep my mother's rented home functioning, trying to keep my younger brother in college, trying to keep the bills from drowning us. There was never room for mistakes in my life, never room for surprises, and certainly no space for something as fragile, terrifying, and beautiful as a baby. But life has a way of knocking on doors you didn't know existed. When I asked her, "Will we get married?" the words weren't brave. If anything, they crawled out of the deepest corners of my panic. I asked because marriage felt like the only solution, the only way to protect her, to protect the child, to protect whatever fragile bond we had once shared. Mariya didn't answer immediately. She just looked down, her fingers tightening around the hem of her dress, her shoulders rising and falling with the weight of everything she didn't say. We hadn't been lovers in some dramatic story. We hadn't even planned a life together. We had been friends first, two people who found comfort in each other during messy hours of life. We had connected during a stormy season of uncertainty, and one mistake had taken us somewhere we never expected. The silence after my question was long and heavy. I watched her eyes fill with hesitation, and I felt something inside me crack, because I realized she wasn't looking for marriage. She wasn't looking for promises or escapes. She was looking for truth, a truth I didn't know how to give. She finally whispered, "Rayan, I don't want you to marry me out of fear." Those words felt like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. We walked slowly toward the nearby park, both of us lost in our thoughts. Daytime surrounded us, children playing, vendors pushing carts, families picnicking under shade trees, but our world was spinning too fast, almost loud in its silence. I watched her sit on a bench beneath an elm tree, spreading shade on the ground like a soft blanket. She touched her stomach with quiet tenderness. I had never seen her like this, neither fragile nor strong, just real. I sat beside her, afraid to look at her but unable to look away. I wanted to say something comforting, something wise, something that would untangle the fear tightening her shoulders. But all I managed was, "I don't want you to go through this alone." She nodded slowly, as if absorbing those words into her bones. The next few days felt like walking through shifting sand, every step uncertain, every hour heavy. I juggled work, home, responsibilities, and the echo of those 4 life-altering words, "The baby is yours." The truth sat inside my chest like a stubborn stone. I wasn't a bad man. I wasn't irresponsible. But I was scared, deeply, painfully scared that I wouldn't be enough. Mariya kept her distance those days, not out of anger but out of confusion. She worked at a daycare center, spending her daylight hours with little children, children who laughed freely, cried loudly, and clung to her like she was a safe place. She had always been a nurturer. She had always carried kindness with her like a second skin. And seeing her with children made something ache inside me. Because maybe she truly was ready for this. Maybe she had the strength I didn't. One afternoon, after fixing a pile of malfunctioning engines and wiping grease from my hands, I sat alone behind the workshop. The heat was unbearable, the air thick with the smell of gasoline. My coworker, Zayden, noticed my distracted state. He was older, married, and a father of 3. He sat next to me drinking cold water from a metal flask and said, "Whatever it is, avoiding it won't make it disappear." I didn't tell him everything. I just asked, were you scared when you first found out you were going to be a father? He laughed softly, shaking his head as if remembering an old wound. Terrified. Thought I'd mess everything up. Thought I wasn't enough. But you learn something with time. You don't become ready for responsibility. Responsibility makes you ready. Her mother cried softly. Her father nodded slowly. And something shifted forever. The closer we got to the due date, the more I realized I didn't just want to be there for the baby. I wanted to be there for her. Truly, completely. I wanted to build a life with her. I wanted to wake up next to her gentle soul, share small joys, face storms, raise a child together with steadiness and hope. One bright afternoon, under a blooming tree at the same park where she first told me she was pregnant, I asked her to marry me, not out of fear this time, but out of love, out of conviction, out of a future I wanted to build with her. She cried into her hands before saying yes. And for the first time in months, we both felt free. Our child, a beautiful boy with soft black hair and eyes that shone like morning, was born on a sunny day. When I held him for the first time, everything inside me shifted. I wasn't the same man anymore. I wasn't afraid. I wasn't confused. I was a father, and I was ready. If this story touched your heart even a little, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Chronicles. Your support helps us keep creating stories that heal, inspire, and bring hope. Special request: comment blessings to all parents if you felt even one emotional moment in this story.